Good afternoon and welcome to the afternoon update on Money FM 89.3. We're in the 3 o'clock hour now, this Tuesday, the 20th of September. Hello to everyone joining us now on social media as well. We are live on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube as well. I'm, of course, joined in the studio by the wonderful Hongbin Jung. Say hello, Hongbin. And of course, Raushan to my left as well. You would have seen him on our big brother angle over there. He's making sure everything is in working order and that me and Hongbin are behaving in the studio today. Okay, I'm going to start off this hour with a magic number for you, Hongbin.
Magic number. Is it 12? 12 is my lucky number.
I know, I got that from your Instagram handle. If you want to find us on Instagram, by the way, Hongbin's handle is HBJung12. That's why she said 12 is her magic number. And I'm Rachel_Kelly360. But that's not my magic number. The magic number I have for you today is 46.
46? Why is that? That's random.
Guess. Don't say my age. I am not there yet. I knew that's what you were thinking. Okay, 46, because if Jerome Powell says inflation 46 times, which is what he did in an 8-minute speech, that's when you know that he'd like people to get the message that the Fed is focused on taming consumer prices.
Do you think he planned that? I'm going to say inflation 46 times today.
Well, you know who went and counted it? It was Endowus Insight. So that's where I got that stat from this morning. They sent an Endowus Insight email out today and they highlighted that it was mentioned 46 times.
Wow.
So, Hongbin, I'm expecting you to count later this week after we get an update from the Fed how many times he mentions inflation.
Okay, I will get back to you on that.
Okay. And speaking of inflation, let's also look at what's been happening in the markets. Did you know that September is traditionally one of the worst months for stocks?
Really? Why is that?
Okay, so I'm going to tell you, there's a CNBC article, and it says after the summer holidays, we tend to see a bit of a lull in September when it comes to the market. So we're going to be monitoring what's happening, especially as we're now in the 20th day of the month. Time is flying by too quickly, folks. So we're going to watch and see at the end of the month to see if, in fact, September has been the worst month this year when it comes to stocks.
But you know, what other specific stocks have been hit this month as well?
We're going to get there, Hongbin. We're going to get there. Market View coming up now. Let's check in on how markets are faring today.
Money FM 89.3. Financial updates from the Business Times.
Okay, before we get into how tech stocks have been performing this month, let's take a look and see where the STI is at. Singapore shares currently in the green. The STI up 0.4% at 3,270 points. We've got advances leading the pack today, 240 to 194 decliners. Volume so far, as we're at 309, 616.8 million securities worth $378.6 million changed hands so far. We're going to talk about some local stocks that we're watching first before we get into those tech stocks. Hongbin, I know you've been keeping an eye on Yan Lord today. What's happening?
So the real estate developer's indirect subsidiary, together with two other parties, was awarded a residential site tender at Lentor Central in Singapore at a bid price of 481 million Singapore dollars or $1,108 per square foot per plot ratio. So the parties plan to build a residential development of about 470 units on the 144,714 square feet site, which is located within the new Lentor Hills estate. So shares yesterday ended flat at around $1.04 before the announcement was released.
You've also been watching OxPay Financial as well today. What's happening there and where's the counter at?
So the payment services company was ordered by the Employment Claims Tribunal to pay its former chief executive and chief financial officer $77,501.52 following wrongful dismissal claims by the two individuals. And this was reported by the Business Times yesterday. In response to queries by BT, OxPay said it does not intend to pursue any further legal action and that it it intends to move forward and focus on growing their business. And prior to that news, shares of Oxbay closed up around 3.7% at 14 cents.
Okay, now we'll move on to a story that I know that you've been watching very closely. But
Mhm.
before we do, just want to say hello to Alden. Thanks for the shout out on Facebook and for tuning in, and to all of you
Hello.
joining us on social media as well. Okay, so this is an article that you picked up from CNBC.
Mhm.
It's titled Three Reasons Why Profitable Tech Stocks Are Getting Hit. Tell us why.
So, CNBC's Jim Cramer this week offered three reasons why tech firms, including companies with strong balance sheets, are seeing pain in the stock market. So, he reiterated his warning against unprofitable companies from earlier this year, but he acknowledged that even firms with strong financials have been feeling the heat. And so, here are his three reasons. First, the strong US dollar and the Europe energy crisis are making companies more frugal with their purchases. So he says the underlying companies make products that their clients can live without in an increasingly tough global economy. And the second reason is that the Federal Reserve might want stocks down. He says the central bank needs inflation to come down by any means necessary, which means the market could get uglier. And the last reason is that the company's individual performances could have been lacking. And he pointed out to Adobe, in which he thinks is a terrific company, but he says its business have been slowing.
Okay. Very quickly before we move on to the next segment of the show, I want to talk about the Japanese yen. I know you spoke about the BOJ earlier on the show,
Right.
and taking a look at where the yen is at, it is close to its weakest levels since 1998.
Yep. And authorities have been hinting at taking action to stem the currency's decline. And CNBC took a closer look at
Okay.
whether Japan's central bank might shift from its ultra loose monetary policy. Um, and despite talk of a physical intervention in the forex markets, analysts are all pointing to another reason behind the weakening yen. And that's the Bank of Japan's yield curve control policy, which is a strategy that was implemented back in 2016. And defending this policy would be the central bank's priority instead of a currency intervention that most people expected. And also, monetary policy changes by Japanese authorities is also unlikely, according to the CNBC article, and chances being especially low under BOJ Governor Haruhiko Kuroda. And analysts say one possibility that they would deliver is amending its current neutral to dovish forward guidance to just neutral or deleting it.
Okay, thanks for that update. Hongbin Jung there. She will have more market moves for you coming up after the 3:30 news. We've got Eco Money coming up next. We are going to be joined live in the studio by Jan Ruzicka, who is the Chief External Affairs Officer at Home Credit. We're going to be talking about responsible and inclusive finance. Stay with us here on Money FM 89.3.
This is Money FM 89.3, Singapore's most influential radio station. Keeping you company through your workday. Money FM 89.3. Eco Money on Money FM 89.3.
You're listening to Money FM 89.3. I'm Rachel Kelly, and now it's time for Eco Money, where we bring you the latest in sustainability and finance. So I'm going to start off with two words for you: responsible and inclusive. Often these two words aren't the first to come to mind when you think of financial products such as loans. But Home Credit says these two areas are key to its ESG, that's environmental, social, and governance initiatives. We're going to find out why. We are joined now by Jan Ruzicka, who is the Chief External Officer at Home Credit. Jan, thank you so much for joining us today.
Hello, guys. I'm sending all the best from Hong Kong.
Great to have you with us all the way from Hong Kong, but virtually here in the studio and remotely to all of our viewers joining us on social media as well. So, Jan, I'm interested to find out. I was reading quite a bit about home credit and what it is that you guys do. And I was wondering if perhaps we can start off there. Tell us what exactly home credit does, because I understand that you have quite a heavy focus when it comes to the underbanked.
Yeah, very true. So Home Credit is company originally from Czech Republic, a kingdom
Mhm.
far, far away. So even though our company has been created 25 years, in the Central Europe, the bulk of our book is now in Asia, in countries like China, Philippines, Vietnam, Indonesia, also India, Kazakhstan, where we are serving the underserved. So we are diversified lender. In some countries, we have a retail banking license. In some other countries, we have a consumer finance license. So everywhere we are regulated by central banks and regulators, and we are focusing on mass market people, not only people from living in a skyscraper in Manila or Jakarta or
Mhm.
Ho Chi Minh, but real people, farmers, women, minorities. For example, in Jakarta, disabled. So these are our clients, and we are very proud to serve them, because not many other companies are serving them credibly and safely. Big high street banks don't want to touch them because they can be high risk, and also these banks are not focused on creating algorithms and risk model assessments for the mass market. And on the other side, you have various, let's call it, bad guys, payday lenders asking horrendous interest rates, hundreds and 100%. You have pawn shops and others. But at the end, money is blood of the economy. And even mass market people not living in a big agglomeration and cities needs to have money to open a new shop, redecorate kitchen, or buy a motorbike to become Gojek and Grab driver. So this is what we are doing, and this is what we are focusing on. Currently having more than 120 million customers in our CRM, and we are serving them with our 55,000 employees across the country.
So
Uh,
yeah, let's rewind for a minute and let's talk about how serious the issue is of underbanked in Asia. I mean, let's start off there. What exactly or who would you term as being underbanked? What's the criteria there?
So you have a three terms as written in every economic
Mhm.
textbook. So you have a three models: unbanked, underbanked, banked. You have 650 million people living around Singapore in Southeast Asia, and unfortunately, quite big chunk of them is without access to credible financial services. If you are unbanked, you are really doing just cash economy. So either barter, farmers somewhere in the jungle, or cash. You don't have even deposit accounts or e-wallets. So if you are one level up and become underbanked, yes, great, you have an e-wallet, or maybe if living in a city's deposit bank accounts, but nobody give you loan, credit. You don't have a mortgage, you don't have installments, etc. Because again, you are high risk for most of the secure financial services, and this constitute a big chunk of people living in Southeast Asia. So it's big problem, because if we think about that. 60% of overall GDP everywhere is the consumption. And the countries, Indonesia, 300 million people, Vietnam, 100 million people, and so on. We can also talk about huge countries like China and India. So if a large part of your population is not part of credible, safe financial services, you have a problem also in your consumption and then in your macroeconomy.
So, okay, I'm going to throw a curveball at Hong Bin here.
Oh no.
Okay, so guess. I want to see if you can get this right. Across ASEAN, how many people don't have access to a bank or financial institution? So I'm going to just repeat that. Across ASEAN,
Mhm.
how many people do not have access to a bank or financial institution? Something I think that we here in Singapore really take for granted. So I'm going to give you three options. I'm not just going to throw you out there. First
Okay.
option, 10 million.
Mhm.
Second option, 110 million.
Uh-huh.
Third option, 290 million.
B.
So you're going for
100.
110 million?
I'm gonna go right in the middle of those three
The
numbers.
answer is C.
Huh?
290 people
Really?
in ASEAN do not have access to a bank or financial institution when we talk about the
That's
underbanked.
more than I thought.
I know. There's more than I thought. I was quite surprised. So, Jan, maybe you can tell us. We speak about 290 million people in ASEAN that don't have access to a bank or financial institution. Where are these people?
So these
Who
people
are
are
these
really
people?
so let's have a Vietnam as an example.
Hmm.
100 million people living in Vietnam, more or less. You have five big cities, on a coastline, up from Hanoi via Da Nang down to Ho Chi Minh. So in these five big cities, you have a 35 million people living, 35% of the population. So these people are served by, high street banks, mortgages, insurance, etc. But still, you have a 65% of the population not living in the big cities, and these people are underserved. Either because it was not profitable before for big bank, I don't know, like DBS, Sampor, and Najab,
Mm.
to build real offline brick and mortar somewhere, in a small town or in the mountains. So that's one. Or second, because these people don't have a FICO score. They don't have a risk. They are not part of official financial risk assessment credit bureau. And again, that's why even in the era of digital finance and super apps, a lot of banks and consumer finance companies don't want to serve them because they are risky.
That's interesting. So you talked earlier about micro loans and how they could potentially help. Maybe you could talk to us about how these micro loans work because you also referenced high interest rates. And at
Yeah.
the end of the day, what you're trying to do is improve somebody's economic situation. So, how do you balance that? Because at the end of the day, you've got to make money too, right?
True, true, true. I think from this perspective, I quite admire central banks and regulators across the Asia. So every concept of social harmony in Asia, you don't want to have a problem on the street, and all the central banks understand, and we support it as well, to have some interest rate ceiling. So normally now, again, in financial theory, you have two segments that is being understood as
Mm.
credible: banks and non-banks. And non-banks can be consumer finance, fintech, you know um, super apps serving the mass market, and you have some kind of ceiling. We support it as well, but then there is also perk how you can make interest rate really low. So if you are quite large lender like us, more than 100 million people in a CRM, and you are selling not only money but you are selling products. We are one of the largest financiers of smartphones in Asia, working with Oppo, Vivo, Huawei, Apple, you name it. And then that, for example, in Jakarta, currently there is 300,000 of your clients that would willing to buy a
Mm.
phone. So you will call to guys from Huawei or Oppo and tell them, hey guys, I have potentially 300,000 clients for you, and I know that your margin is XYZ. And how about you will share the part of the margin with me, so we can offer to the customers zero interest rate, 0% product. So this is how you onboard a client, and this is what we do as well. So for us, smartphone, and for many other companies as well, smartphone or motorbike or new kitchen from IKEA. So this is so-called onboarding products, and you share the margin with the producers, manufacturers, or retailers. So you can get really super low interest or even a zero interest rate to your customers. And then there is a second phase. After onboarding the customer, you are trying to build AI-based algorithmic model of the client to assess real riskiness. And in some quite time, several months, you built a profile of a customer and you understood whether he or she is risky or not. And if not, again, you don't need to charge high interest because you know the credibility of the customer is there.
Mhm.
And nobody, honestly, from the credible players want to mess with collections. You don't want to have a higher NPL. You don't want to have non-performing
That's
loans.
right.
So that's
So,
why.
yeah,
Sorry,
yeah, and
sorry.
I just want to follow on from that. When you talk about your NPLs, your non-performing loans, how long does it take for the application process for these loans when you're looking at, reaching remote areas to help them, whether it's, buy a mobile phone or get access to credit so that they can perhaps start up their own business? What's the application process like and what's the turnaround time? Because obviously you want to do the right checks and balances to make sure that they're able to, make good on these loans.
This is what I love about digital and AI and a big data. Because even for newly acquired customers, so you, Rachel, would come to our shop, I don't know, which we share, for example, with Huawei or IKEA or Kawasaki, less than 2 minutes, based on your smartphone number, based on your ID. And if you would be, customer already in a CRM, less than 1 minute. So this is what I found really cool. Not only bringing customer very fast product service, but also this is what I believe that fintech, as we can call it, digital finance, can really bring to the mass market customers. And this is, I think, what also Southeast Asia or Asia at large gave to the world. This fast leapfrog from checkbooks and plastic credit cards to super apps and e-wallets, which I think is really cool. And even for me, not being originally from Asia, but living here for quite some time, I really admire all the fintech and consumer finance companies throughout the region, that are able to do this AI-based fintech. Really cool.
Okay, Jan, I've got another question that we're going to throw at Hongbin now. Got to keep her on her toes. Okay, so this one. How many people in Southeast Asia were pushed into extreme poverty during the pandemic?
Are there any choices that you can give me?
Of course, I've got choices for you. Of course, I've got choices for you. Okay, 4.7 million, 6 million, or 8 million?
8 million. I'm going to go high up there.
Oh, see, I got you there. Correct answer is 4.7 million, but it's still a lot. That's the total in extreme poverty. It's now at 24.3 million last year. It's a 3.7% of Southeast Asia's collective 650 million population. And this is up from extreme poverty pre-pandemic that saw 14.9 million in extreme poverty in 2019.
Wow.
Okay. Yeah, and I know you want to jump in there because you're talking about how microloans can help people post-pandemic, right?
Not only about it, I think more largely, again, digital. Never in the history of the mankind, so many people had been grabbed out of the poverty, like in Asia in last 30, 40 years. And again, digital finance and e-commerce is a big part of the story. Last 15 years, and we are here in all the countries for last 15 years, so we see the big change. That really digital, safe, credible financial services provided by multiple companies, of course, not only by us, but Indians, Singaporeans, of course, Filipinos. They are bringing people towards the credible services, and I think this is another thing I admire about Asia. That you have so many startups and fintechs that can really develop something, from scratch in a days, not years, and then put it on the market, either in e-commerce, finance, fintech. And we as a Home Credit, we not only do business alone, but we also have a lot of strategic partners. For example, in your region, it's Tokopedia from Jakarta. We work also with Gojek. We work with Grab. We work with Momo. So also these kind of product JVs is driving people out of poverty, because you have these thousands and thousands Gojek drivers and Grabs and all this e-commerce economy. This is something that we are very proud to be part of.
Okay. Well, Jan, we're hitting the bottom of the hour now. We've got so much to talk about. I also wanted to ask you about, I understand you've got a sustainable credit card as well, but we just don't have enough time right now. So we're going to have to get you back on the show to talk about that other aspect of your business, as well as find out from you what's next for Home Credit. But thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us today.
It's been great honor. Have a great day in Singapore.
Thank you, Jan. You take care in Hong Kong, okay? We've been speaking with Jan Ruzicka, who is the Chief of External Affairs at Home Credit. You are listening to Money FM 89.3. You're also watching Money FM if you are joining us on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. We will be back with you tomorrow live on Facebook and social media tomorrow at 3:05 p.m. But you know what? Tune into your radio now if you haven't already. We've got another half hour left of the show. And of course, up after the afternoon update is prime time there with you from 4 till 7 p.m. Stay with us here on Money FM 89.3.
Money FM 89.3. Money FM 89.3.